Business school has it backwards. In fact, I think the whole world may have it backwards. And because of that, businesses make terrible decisions. I'll tell you what I'm talking about on this episode of the Murdy Creative Co podcast. And welcome back to the Murdy Creative Co podcast. I'm your host, Colin Murdy, and today's topic is what business school gets wrong. Or backwards. Yeah. But first, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported the company so far. If you got a chance, go check us out on the website at murdycreative.co. That's M-U-R-D-Y creative.co. Or you can check us out on all sorts of social media platforms. We appreciate everyone who has supported the company so far. That's how we get to keep doing this, and we hope that you love the products as much as we do. So, I have a lot of ideas and thoughts that over time I have found to be incorrect. And many of those ideas and thoughts came to me during my business school education. Now, I don't think it's the fault of the school I went to, and I don't think it's necessarily the fault of the professors I had. I think it's actually the fault of the entire business world. And I think it's the result of 50 years of poor decision-making. Now, I have my MBA, and for those of you who just grimaced, and I understand why, there's obviously the same joke about Harvard, which is if you want to know if someone went to Harvard, just wait a few minutes, they'll tell you. And I have once again fallen prey to that I do have, in fact, an MBA. And it's funny because I was able to take my MBA during my undergrad courses. And so the way it worked at the school I went to is if you got high enough test scores, you could take the MBA courses instead of the undergrad courses. And if you passed the MBA level course, they gave you credit for the undergrad, which makes sense to me and made sense to me at the time. And it was actually part of the reason I went to the school. So I was able to finish my MBA and my undergrad at the same time in 4 years. And I actually really enjoyed my MBA classes. I felt that they were actually one of the of the business school classes, they were very challenging in a very fun way. And an area that was always something that I think felt backwards, wrong, was the finance courses. Now, I've talked a little bit about this in the past, and it's become more and more clear to me as I've gotten older. So I'll start with what I used to think and what I was taught in school and what is the conventional thinking in business, and I'll go from there. If you go to most MBA classes, you go to most finance classes, you go to most business classes, and if you ask most business owners and you ask most corporate leaders, the answer is pretty much the same to this question, which is, what's the right amount of debt to carry? Now, most of them will give you a numeric answer, 30%, 50%, 100%, or in some cases, 400%. And you may not really understand what that number means, but the short answer is it's basically the debt that you're carrying to the either gross revenue or profit, depending on how you analyze it. But the short answer is how many multiples of debt can I carry to my profit ratio? Now, this obviously gets a little bit tricky because, like I said, it's industry dependent and it's person dependent, but it's always normally a positive number. What that would be, a way to analyze that would be, say, if a company generates $100,000 of profit a year, then that company, if you thought the number was 400%, then the company could carry $400,000 of debt to that $100,000 of annual profit. Right. And that $400,000 of debt wouldn't be every year we're incurring $400,000 in debt. We're not the federal government. It would have to actually be we on any given year are carrying about $400,000 of debt, and it would go up and down and things like that. Now, during the financial crisis in 2008, the debt ratios were wild, and the leveraging by the investment banks were wild, to the tune of like 14 times their profitability, right? That's insane. And everyone agrees that that's kind of a crazy number. And frankly, most lending institutions wouldn't give you credit at that point, right? Because a lot of times the answer to your credit question about debt versus profit versus payment and all that other stuff, it really comes down to how much credit you can get. A lot of businesses will structure what they're willing to take out based off of what the bank or other private investment will give them. And that's a terrible way to do it, by the way, but that's kind of the tradition. And the idea is this: well, if you can borrow a lot of money you can deploy that money to grow the business. And by growing the business, you reduce that equity that debt rate on your profitability. So in the $400,000 example, you would borrow $400,000 and then you'd grow your company. And now the next year, your company doesn't generate $100,000 in profit. Your company generates $200,000 in profit. And because your company generates $200,000 in profit, your debt ratio is actually only 2 now rather than 4x, 200% rather than 400%, right? I was always a believer of this. Now, I was also naive and young, so you can't fault me for believing what my professors told me, but as I've gotten older, as I've lived the life of a small business owner, as I've dealt with the economic woes, ups and downs of the last autumn years, and as I've dealt with the challenges that face business owners today, borrowing money, paying it down, carrying an enormous amount of debt for the last couple of years, I have a totally different approach to this. I think the correct debt number should be 0. And I think the problem with this country is in part because we let the finance people take over. I've talked about this in the past, that a while back, think 30s, 40s, 50s, and by the way, this has been a problem long before then. Finance has been around for a very long time, and frankly, finance was a foundational part of this country's history with the investments in whaling ships back in Boston and other places like that. So I'm not saying that this is a new problem per se, but there was a firm belief in the world of manufacturing and the history of manufacturing that the best thing for your company was to make the best product, to put your name on the best product, and to stand by that product, to build out a brand that was known for the product quality. And to do that, oftentimes, you as a company, as a manufacturing organization, needed to bear and have large cash reserves to some extent to be able to deal with major shifts in supply chains or enormous new product launches that required you to invest the money up front, and you wanted to carry that. Now, a lot of companies still carried a lot of debt back then. I'm not saying that was things. But what ended up happening was in the world of the 1970s, 80s, a little bit before then, but mostly 1970s, 80s, 90s, finance took over. And the primary product that this country made became financial instruments. And the way that was done, in my opinion, is that the finance industry went in, bought out these organizations that were these manufacturing companies, and rather than focusing on maintaining cash reserves and building out cash reserves, they instead leveraged these companies to the gills and tried to extract as much profitability, as much cash out of them. And rather than them being profitable and generating profit, they became debt instruments of their own variety. And I think that happened writ large across every major industry. And at this point, finance owns almost everything. And finance people aren't manufacturing people. Finance people aren't brand pride people. They're not the kind of people to say, we're going to do the thing that makes us less money, but is better for our company's philosophy, better for our company's brand, better for our customers, right? And as I've gotten older, I kind of have changed. When the company started, I took great pride in the fact that the company wasn't carrying more than $20,000 of debt at any given time. And that was mostly because the only debt that I was able to get was personal credit cards. And the credit card companies wouldn't give me more than $20,000. So for the first 2-3 years of the company, we didn't have any debt beyond $20,000. And we generated more than that in profitability every year. So our debt ratio was basically 1 or less, right? And we pretty much financed the growth of the company out of the profits of the company. And then I realized that if we were going to make the leap into a larger space, we were going to buy the equipment we needed, we were going to bring on the people that we needed, we were going to need more access to we were going to do that in a big way. And I thought to myself, well, we'll go to the bank, we'll get a line of credit, we'll borrow the money from the line of credit, we'll grow. It was the traditional mindset, we'll grow the company will get bigger, and we'll do a lot more. And the answer is both yes and no. Because that year that I got the line of credit and that we spent the line of credit and we grew the business in a lot of different ways, our gross revenues nearly doubled. However, we lost $87,000 that year on a $100,000 line of credit. So what that means is, yes, our gross revenue jumped massively, but our spending also jumped way more. And we have been fighting our way ever since then. Once we got the company into $80,000 worth of debt, $87,000 worth of debt, because going negative $87,000 when you started with basically very little cash reserves and no debt means that you have to now carry $80,000 in debt. And I thought, okay, well, we borrowed all this money, the company grew. I'll borrow more money and we'll get the company profitable, right? That makes sense. And over the last 4 years, I have spent a lot of money trying new ideas that didn't work. New ideas to grow the company, new marketing avenues, new strategies to bring on bigger companies, new avenues to bring on different types of clients, companies versus individuals, all sorts of different things. And every time, it's been tens of thousands of dollars of expense, and almost every time it has yielded very poor results. There are a few exceptions. I'm not going to say every idea I had was bad. There were some that were pretty good and that have worked out well, and we've maintained them, right? And grown them modestly. But it was the last couple of years that really put the thumb screws down, because the company was breaking even-ish, not really doing particularly well above that. And the interest we were paying was almost to the profitability of the company, or in some cases more than the profitability of the company. Well, that's called a zombie company, in case you're curious. When the profitability only covers the interest payments on the debt, a company is a zombie company. It merely exists to pay its creditors. And honestly, that scared me. I was deeply concerned about that. And so I kind of had a little bit of a moment where I realized that we've got to change the way we were doing things. Growth wasn't the answer. We weren't going to borrow $400,000 and then generate $200,000 more in profit. That wasn't going to be how it was going to work. And in fact, the reality of the market, the limitations of the market, meant that we were at the level we were unable to grow much more. Now, I have not come to the conclusion that we have no growth ahead of us. That is not at all the conclusion I have come to. I have come to the conclusion, though, that to be able to tap into that growth, we have to do it from a position of strength, because the growth that we will need to tap into is harder to find than the past. It's more expensive to find. It's going to require us to try riskier things. So, more and more, I have come to believe that the best path forward is for us to pay down all our debt. And that will take years, probably. Our current trajectory is good. We've had a great start to the year. We've paid down a good portion of the starting. We're on track to make the original financial plan to get that paid off. We're on track for that. In fact, we're doing a little bit marginally better than we thought we were going to be doing. And if we maintain that, we'll actually be out of debt sooner than we'd initially anticipated. And I think it's still prudent for us to say that it's going to take longer, because realistically, the beginning of the year is relatively strong for us. The summertime slows down a bit. So I have to be able to be realistic and say that we may not be able to maintain our debt repayment schedule. And you may say to yourself, Colin, if you're being able to repay debt, well, that's got to come out of profitability. So you're not purely a zombie company. And the answer is no, we're not a zombie company. We're doing quite well with wiser decision making, right? Because a lot of the money that was spent last year and the year before that could have been used to pay down debt was used to try a new thing, a big thing, and it didn't work. And so the answer is this. If we resize our company like we have down to a smaller, leaner, more focused group of people, and we have an excellent team right now, it's just the right size. I mean, if you read the behind the scenes last week, you'll realize that we were a little short on labor last week because we had the unfortunate happenstance of losing 2 of our 4 people in the company. But they're back now, and we're back on our track, right? But our size is great for where we're at. We can maintain this size. The marketing budget is far more restrained. The goal of the marketing budget isn't to bring in big numbers. The goal of the marketing budget is to bring in specific numbers for a specific spend. We're not trying to grow. We're not trying to scale. And for everyone who keeps sending me emails that are selling me marketing services, no, we're not trying to scale. I hate that idea. I hate that mentality. The mentality of bigger is always better. As a small business owner, bigger is not always better. In fact, there are many times I think to myself that if we would have just stuck with selling slim cut binders on Amazon and wouldn't have done anything else, I would have made a lot more money over the last couple of years. And that's probably true. But at what cost? We have done amazing products. We've expanded in beautiful ways. I have all sorts of cool things. So I am happy with the decisions that we've gotten to get to this size. But bigger is not always better. And in many ways, bigger creates more problems. And it certainly has created problems. So the path forward for us is to get out of debt. Once we get out of debt by being small, being restrained, focusing on our core competencies, the launches of products that we are going to be doing this year are going to be products that either have been in the works for a long time, like the pen, and are still within our core competencies, or are things that have more similar production structure to our current structure, and it's not something new, something crazy. It's either the pen, which is already in works, or it's things like bags, which we have the structure to manage, right? It's not crazy new ideas. And we're not trying to get brand new targets, right? We're not expanding our customer base rapidly. In fact, a lot of times we've been working on doubling down on our current customer base, finding ways to provide better and more value to our current customers through the limited editions and through other things like the catalogs, where we bring people into a better awareness of the other products we have, right? That's how I think we're going to manage this. And we're going to get ourselves out of debt. We're going to get down to zero debt. That's the plan. And then when we get down to zero debt, I want to put $100,000 in the bank. And that will take another year or two, probably. And I don't want to touch it. We'll probably put it in money markets. So for those of you out there saying you're going to leave it in your checking account, no, we're going to probably put it, some of it or most of it, in money markets and earn 2%, right? It's going to make some money. But I don't want it to be used for me to try some crazy new things. And here's why. Because I don't want the next time that we have a major economic challenge to have to borrow money. I want, during the next major economic challenge, and there will be one, for us to be able to use our reserve cash to keep going, to restructure, to reorganize, to refocus. Because that's making decisions from a position of strength. Now, when we want to try a new thing, we can have a tailored budget specifically for that thing, and we're not borrowing to do it. And there's people out there saying, okay, if you have $100,000 in cash, you should certainly, and you have no debt, you should absolutely, that's negative leverage, right? That's the opposite of leverage. And the answer is yes. I think the answer is negative leverage. And here's why. Because if we had an economic downturn and we had that much money in the bank, I wouldn't have to fire people. We could do no sales for 6 months, and I'd still be able to pay our people. Now, I don't think we'd have no sales, but the answer is this. We would still be able to pay our people. And a lot of businesses out there are saying, well, if we're not a charity, if we don't have sales, we should just cut people. And the answer is sure, that is one way to look about it. But the people that we have are our greatest asset. The minds that we have are the company's greatest asset. The people that we have cultivated, the brain power that we have in this organization, is what is going to allow us to weather the storm. It is going to come up with the next great idea that we've got. It's going to push us to develop new things. It's going to provide me, the brains of the operation, with the production-focused mindset to generate processes to actually do the thing. That is my weakness, I should say. I'm not particularly good at that. So no, I don't want to just fire people when we, run out of steam. That's not a good way to run business. I want to have enough cash reserves that I can keep paying these people so that we, as a team, can solve the problem and find the next thing. And I am blessed to have people who are going to stick it out. People who are going to be with us for the long haul. There was an old world where people would go and work for a company for 40 years. They'd be company men. And then they'd retire. And everyone in the world bemoans the fact that that's gone. I don't think it has to be gone. I think it involves a relationship, a genuine relationship between business leaders and employees. Because if you have employees who you work to say, I want you to accomplish your personal goals, and I want it to happen within this company. I want to build you up as people to have the things you want. And I want to figure out how to take and harness your desires for bigger and better and fulfill the company's targets with that mindset. And in return for you helping me build this organization and sticking through me with the hard times, and maybe doing things you may not like that much, I'm going to make sure that even when the company goes through down times, even when the company has hard times, I'm still going to make sure that you have your paycheck. That's the relationship we want to build. And honestly, I think that's the moral way to do business. I think that's the moral structure for which we can have good businesses. And I think if every company out there were to say, you know what, we're going to pay down all of our debt, we're going to focus on our core competencies, we're going to focus on providing the best value to our customers, we're going to make products that are good products. That's going to be our focus. Not profit, products. We're going to need to generate some profit to keep the company going, to pay down the debt, but we don't need to have profit above everything else. It's going to be product, customer, people. Right? Concordia used to talk about the triple bottom line. Profit, people, planet. Right? And frankly, I think it's a good mindset. And I've talked about that in some other podcasts, but if we can say that that was the focus of our businesses, and we were able to say, okay, we're going to get rid of all the financiers, right? We're going to make them so desperate to give their money away that they're going to actually have to, start a business themselves and use that capital to make something instead. That would be great. I think we'd find ourselves to be much less desperate as a culture, as a country. There's this air of desperation, economic desperation, that pervades everything, it seems. It creates this frantic energy of faster, bigger, more, better. And while some of that is good, you want ambition, you want things to drive forward, we're way, way, way over our skis as a country, and way over our skis as companies, and way over our skis as individuals. And it's going to take restraint, and I struggle with that. So I'm hoping that the fact that this new mindset is purveying my mindset, this new attitude is changing the way that I see things, I'm hoping that that sticks. I'm hoping that that provides me with the responsibility and with the restraint to see debt as the enemy that it is. And I know it's completely counter to most businesses. It's completely counter to most business mindsets. But it's not about the money. It's never been about the money. It shouldn't be about the money. And I'm not some crazy social communist who says the profit's bad. No, I'm a capitalist who says it's not about the money. And I know that's going to sound like an oxymoron, but it's not. Because the problem is that the money is the score. That's the scorecard. That's not the game. Building, manufacturing, creating good products that make your customers happy, provide them with value in an ongoing way so that they love your company, want your company to grow, invest in other products you make, and tell their friends about you, building that brand equity, making good products, building a good customer base, that's the game. The money's just the score. And so you can't just chase the score. You can't say, it'd be like playing a football game where your goal is to burn out your players and run them as hard as possible so that at the end of the game, all of the players are dead and you've got the highest score. It's a short-term mindset and it does not work. It is I'm going to win this game and sacrifice every other game to do it. The long game mindset says that we as should be eliminating debt. The long game mindset says we as a company should eliminate all of our debt and build a cash reserve, build a war chest, so that we can play the long game even when things go south. And that would be my exhortation to you. It's difficult. There are a lot of shiny objects out there. But if you can manage to orient yourself in a way that's long game mindset, that works on getting rid of all of the debt, putting money in the bank, buying fewer things of better quality, restraining that consumeristic tendency to just want more, or if you can't constrain it, focus that energy on I want more to say I want more money. I don't want more things. I want the number in the bank account to be bigger. Right? If you have to have that consumerist mindset, make it work for you. to say, I want to pay down my debt. I want zero debt and more money in the bank, right? That's the more I want. And I'm going to do that through a restraint. I'm going to do that by, rather than going and buying the thing, putting the money in the bank. And I know that there's some people out there saying, well, I guess I'm not going to get that Murdy Creative Co product. And you know what? I can't fault you for that, right? But I will say that buying something really good quality that's going to last a long time, that is the fundamental way that you can accomplish the long game mindset. Because buying something that will last is how you say, I'm investing in the long game. I'm not going to buy the cheap thing over and over and over. I'm not going to saddle myself with future debts to replace this thing. I'm going to buy the good thing once and take care of it. And I think that was the mindset of those who came before us, who were smarter than us. Buy something valuable, something meaningful, something that is worth it. Maintain it, take care of it, repair it, rather than throwing it out and buying another one. I think business school has it wrong. But maybe I have it wrong. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe I'm backwards. Maybe I've got it all crazy. This week's special limited edition, and I'm saying special limited edition because it's one of the special ones, is Blue Bison. Yeah, you heard me right, Blue Bison. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. I want you to tell me whether you think I'm crazy, whether you think that this is backwards, whether you think I've missed something, right? Maybe I have. This is a relatively new mindset for me, and frankly, maybe I'm missing something. But tell me what you think in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to check in next week, and please leave a like on and a comment on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the usuals. And also, please leave a review on the company if you have a product and you love it. If you have a product and you don't love it, reach out to us. We want to make you love it. We want to help you. We want to make it something you are thrilled to have. And we do offer free US returns now. In the old days, we made you guys pay for the return label to help prevent people from returning things that they didn't need to return, that they just... Anyway, but we are now offering free domestic returns. So if you are unhappy with your product for any reason, reach out to us. We will send you a label. You can send it back. There is no risk at all. So please, if you love your product, leave a review. It helps us. MurdyCreative.co/review to leave a review. MurdyCreative.co/reviews to read all of our amazing reviews. If you have any questions or concerns about your product, about a product we sell, about a product you haven't got yet, a product you want to hear about, how I'm doing, reach out to us on the contact form on the main page of our website, MurdyCreative.co. There's going to be a contact form. You can reach out to us there. We have a phone number at the top of the website, 414-434-9001. You can call us or text us at that number, 414-434-9001. We're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time. If you don't get a hold of us during those hours, please leave us a voicemail. We call people back. If you text us, please give us a minute to respond. Anna's the one that normally responds to texts. Anna also does cutting and punching and engraving, assembling, and so sometimes she doesn't see the text messages right away, so we appreciate your patience. We're real people actually responding and doing other things, so we appreciate your patience, but we do want to answer your questions. We want to help you, so reach out to us. We are happy to help. Check out our customized product on the website. You can get customized products with logos. You can get them with a whole bunch of them all at once. You can get a logo engraved. There's no minimum order quantities. You can get just one. And you can go to that by using the add logo engraving button, the blue button on the main page of each product. If you can't find it on the product page, reach out to us. Some of them don't have it built into the website yet. We're still working on that. We can create a custom mock-up for you as well as sending you a custom link to purchase. So if you want a custom product, we can arrange that to a custom engraved product, I should clarify. We can make that happen. If you're looking for bulk orders, we have bulk discounts available. They're built right into the cart. All you need to do is add all the items you want to your cart, mix and match to your heart's desire. It's based purely on total cart quantity. Hit checkout. It'll auto-apply the correct discount. If you want to know more about that program, you can send us a message. We'd be happy to talk you through it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and goodbye.